Hello everyone, welcome to SST College of Arts and Commerce. This is SST Edupedia. I am Deepika Valecha, Assistant Professor in SST College. Today we will be learning about company audit, which is a topic in auditing subject of semester 6 TY-BCPI. Now let's see what exactly we will be learning. Let's go with the content of today's topic. We will be learning about what are the various sections and various provisions available in relation to the appointment of a company auditor, removal of a company auditor, what are the qualifications and disqualifications which are there as per the Companies Act in relation to the company auditor, duties of a company auditor, and what are the rights, what are the different rights available for company auditor. And also we will be learning about the smaller topic, which is branch audit, joint audit and special audit. Now first of all we'll see the section which is appointment of a company auditor. For this, the section is section 139 of Companies Act 2013. Now there are various provisions in relation to the appointment of a company auditor. In case of a first auditor, the first auditor of the company is being appointed by the board of directors in their board meeting within 30 days from the date of incorporation. If board of directors are not able to appoint because of one or the other reason the first auditor, then shareholders will appoint the first auditor of the company. In case of the appointment by shareholders, the subsequent auditors of the companies will be appointed by the shareholders of the company in annual general meeting, and in that meeting they will be deciding upon the tenure of the audit. The tenure of the auditor is up to the 6th consecutive general meeting of the shareholders. The reappointment of the auditor. Auditor can be reappointed, the same auditor can be reappointed further for the next year unless and until this auditor is not giving any kind of a notice to the company that he or she is not willing to continue with the organization. Even he is not disqualified by law, and also no shareholder or any other person concerned with the company has given any kind of a notice to the company that they are not willing to continue that person as an auditor of the company for the next financial year. So the same person can be reappointed into the company as a company auditor. In case of casual vacancy. First of all, what do you mean by casual vacancy? Casual vacancy arises in case of death, resignation, or else in case of disqualification of an auditor. In this case, the board of directors are eligible to appoint the auditor as in case of casual vacancies. The tenure of that auditor will be till the conclusion of next annual general meeting. Coming to the next point, that is appointment of auditor by central government. This is under section 140 subsection 5. Central government can appoint the auditors in case of the urgencies or else in case where the auditor is removed by the company because of in case of casual vacancies or in case of the disqualification of the auditor. And also central government can appoint the auditor in different cases when the situation arises. Next we comes to the appointment of first auditor in government companies. The government audit, the auditor of the government company will be appointed by Comptroller and Audit General of India. That is that we can say as it is as CAG, that is CAG. That particular Comptroller and Auditor General of India is eligible to appoint the auditor of the company. So in various situations, in various cases, there are the different authorities allotted who are required to appoint the auditor of the company. Coming to the next point, that is removal of auditor before the expiry of the term, which is mentioned under section 140 of Companies Act 2013. Now, removal of company's auditor. An auditor cannot be removed in any as in kind of any normal employee of the company can be removed by simple resignation or by any kind of a notice. No. For this removal purpose, there is a proper procedure to be followed. First of all, if a company or a board of directors are not willing to continue the same person as an auditor of the company, they have to pass a resolution in the board meeting. Once they pass the resolution, then they have to fill the application form ADT2 within 30 days from the date of board's resolution to the registrar of companies, and then and also to the central government. They have to apply to the central government. Central government will give the approval or disapproval depending upon the different facts. Then only the further procedure will be continued. After the approval from the central government only, an auditor can be removed from the place of from his work. Now basically as in our constitution as well, in law as well, everyone is having the right to be heard. So here as well, after approval from the central government, shareholders are also required to give the approval in the general meeting that this person is to be removed from his work of audit. After this consent with the special resolution, that is with the majority of voting only, we can remove that person. Otherwise it is not possible. That is 75% of the voting should be, 75% of the special resolution should be passed. With that, where the auditor should be removed. Then after this, a notice will be given to the auditor in relation to these are the reasons why we all need to remove the person from his place. After that, an auditor is given a chance to speak about and present his or her facts in relation to the matters connected. Then only the decision of removal will be taken. So it is not easy to remove the person from the place of auditing. We need to take the government's approval, that is central government's approval, and after following the proper procedure only we will be able to remove a person from his place. Coming to the next point, which is qualification of an auditor. Now, who is the person who is qualified to be an auditor of a limited company? Basically, we can see the qualification is, it may be a practicing chartered accountant. Now, what is the meaning of practicing chartered accountant? A person who has qualified a degree of chartered accountant, who is a member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He or she is eligible to do or to conduct the audit of a limited company. The second important thing is a firm of chartered accountants. A partnership firm where two or more chartered accountants are there who have jointly started a firm of chartered accountants. Right? That also the firm is also eligible to conduct the audit of a limited company. Now coming to the third point, that is limited liability partnership. Now we have a new concept which is called as LLP, in which the partnership firm is having the partners, where the partners' liability is limited up to their stake values. So that is those, but in that as well we should have the chartered accountant. So the basic criteria for conducting an audit is, qualification is, a person must be a CA. Coming to the disqualifications, who cannot do the audit of the company even if that person is chartered accountant, which is mentioned under section 141 subsection 3. Now, a body corporate other than LLP. A body corporate refers to a company. A company cannot do the audit of the another company. So a body corporate is not eligible for conducting the audit of any company. Then an officer of the company or an employee of the company, a person who is working in the company, he or she, even if that person is the chartered accountant, cannot conduct the audit of that particular company. Whoever is connected with the company, it may be a director, it may be an officer, it may be an employee, they cannot do the audit. Next is a person who is the partner of employee of the company. even a person who is in relation with the employees of the company. Say for example, we have Reliance company, or we have company A, in which Mr. X is working. The Mr. X partner can, who is the chartered accountant, that person can also not conduct the audit, because he or she is connected with the any person or an employee of the company. Next is a person who is indebted to the company or its subsidiaries in excess of 5 lakhs. If any person is indebted, that means he or she has taken a loan, or else you can say goods on credit basis more than 5 lakhs rupees, that person can also not conduct the audit. Next is a person who has given a guarantee of any third party to the company in excess of 1 lakh. A guarantor of any person can also cannot conduct the audit of a company. Again, if you see the next point, which is a person whose relative is a director, like again, whoever is a person which is connected with the director of the company, or a person who has exceeded the limit of 20 companies audit. Now, this is a rule as per the ICAI that an individual, a chartered accountant, can conduct the audit of 20 companies in a particular year. So, if that 20 companies limit is exceeded, then also he is not qualified to conduct the audit. And the last point is a person who is disqualified by law. Now, what do you mean by disqualified by law? It means the person may have done any offense, he may have break the rules, or he has done any kind of a fraud. So that person is disqualified by the law only, that he or she is not supposed to conduct the audit of any company. So these are the different disqualifications which are mentioned under section 141 subsection 3. Coming to the next point, which is remuneration of an auditor. Now it's a basic thing, like whoever is appointing the auditor, that person is the only one who is going to decide upon the remuneration of an auditor. It totally depends on who has appointed the auditor. If board of directors has just appointed the auditor, then board of directors will decide upon what will be the scope of audit, what will be the amount, what will be the type of audit, and on which basis the remuneration of an auditor will be decided. If shareholders have appointed the auditor, then accordingly shareholders will decide upon the what are the expenses and what are the things will be connected in terms of the auditor's remuneration. Coming to the next point, which is remuneration includes expenses. It means what? Whatever the amount of expenses, whatever the amount of remuneration is, it includes all the expenses in relation to the audit, work that will be included into the remuneration. Coming to the next point, which we have duties of company auditor. Now, what are the different duties which are very important to be conducted, to be done by the company auditor? First of all, we have duty to carry out the audit work smoothly or skillfully. The main basic duty is that the work which is given to that person is to conduct the audit very efficiently and effectively in a skilled manner. Then it is duty to verify the financial records. Then the important duty is to report to the shareholders to give the true and fair view of financial statements, like whether the financial statements which are prepared by the company are proper enough, or whether they are reliable enough or not. They have to report the fraud also to the shareholders, and also in certain cases to the central government as well. This is a prior duty to avoid any kind of a problems in future. Next, we have duty to make inquiries of Companies Act 19 as per Companies Act 1956. Duty to certify statutory report. Now, what is certification? Certification means to check and to give the authentication by signing the report. So, certification, like auditor will sign the report that this particular report is correct and it is reliable. Then duty to certify profit and loss account and other details in prospectus. Duty to help the investigators. In many cases, in some cases, auditor may need a help of investigators to check for the different valuation purposes, or it may be a valuation of land, it may be a valuation of precious assets. So in that cases, auditor will assist to the investigators as well. Duty to work with integrity. Integrity means what? Integrity means honesty. So it's a principle of auditing that a person should work with integrity with his best possible manner, and also to maintain the confidentiality. It's a very important thing that he or she will maintain the confidentiality in all the audit records. Like he should not disclose any kind of any any important matters to anyone. Then we have duty to ensure compliance with Companies Act 2013. Now, in this point, we can say that the auditor should comply with all the requirements which are there in Companies Act 2013, and also make sure that company has also fulfilled all the required reports, all the documentations and all which are complying with the Companies Act 2013. Now, as we have seen the duties of the company auditor, now we'll go to the rights. What are the different rights which are there, rights available to the company auditor? First of all, the right available to auditor is right to have access to the books of accounts. See, basically an audit work is conducted with the help of all the documents starting from voucher entry. So, auditor should have a right that he or she can access to the books of accounts of the company, and he will check all the requirements in relation to the smooth conduct of the audit. Then right to call for information and explanation. In this point, an auditor can call, that means he or she can talk with the people connected with the company, that is he may contact with the officers, directors, employees, or even the investors, external people like creditors and government, etc., to get the information wherever he or she required for particular documents where he or she feels like there is a possibility of error or frauds. Then right to receive the notice of general meeting and attend the same. This the auditor is having a right to receive the notice of all the general meetings with the shareholders, and even he or she can attend the same as well. It's his or her choice that whether he wants to or not, but he has a right to attend the meeting. Then next is right to visit the branches. In case of branch audit, the auditor is also having a right that he or she can visit the different branches and also check investigate and also observe the things attached to there, and also or she can check the books of accounts of even a branches as well. Right to seek the expert's opinion. Now, wherever possible, if there are certain cases where experts' knowledge is important, at that point of a time as well, auditor can also call any expert person for the purpose of seeking the opinion about a particular matter. Then we have right to be indemnified. That means whenever an audit expenses in relation to the audit work, then he or she can get the amount to be indemnified, that is that amount to be repaid to the same person. To receive the remuneration, the work which is being performed by the auditor, that is basically for the purpose of remuneration. Any person whoever is working, that person should get the remuneration on time. Then we have right to representation, then right to lien, and right to sign the audit report. See, basically any audit report or else any income tax file or any document where we can say we need to fill the income tax to the government, that cannot be forwarded until and unless the auditor has not signed that particular report. So it's a right of an auditor to sign the report. Now, what do you mean by right to lien? Lien, that means what? Lien, that you can say as kind of a freeze, like where you feel like there is a possibility of a fraud in this particular company. So auditor can documents and all the necessary documents or reports, and like these are the documents which I have leaned. So now, until and unless I have not informed, till then, no one can make any kind of a changes in these documents. What are the different rights available to the auditor? Coming to the next point, we have certain audits which includes audit. Now, audit is something which every to maintain the books of account in relevant document for its every branch in a same manner. That means what? For example, different banks. One bank is having the n number of branches in different areas and different regions. So every branch is supposed to maintain the books of accounts in a same manner which is prescribed by the law and which is as per the head office only, and all those branch audits will be consolidated at the head office, and then the head office auditor, that is statutory auditor, will check all the records and the file of the bank draft as a whole is working properly or not. But as in terms of only for the purpose of, if we can say, for the branch we are concerned about, so the branch auditor is the one who is concerned about, or else who is liable for that particular branches. Like if in case any fraud or any error is there, so the branch auditor is liable for that particular fraud or error. Coming to the slide, which joint audit. Now, what do you mean by joint audit? Joint audit refers to when if a company is there which is whose operations are on a large scale, and it is not possible for one single firm or one chartered accountant to continue and conduct the audit smoothly, then two or more people jointly conduct the audit in one particular company. For one particular company. That is what you can say a joint audit, where Mr. A and Mr. B, both chartered accountants, are going to conduct the audit of company XYZ. That is something which you can say a joint audit. Here they divide the work among themselves, and the overall objectives and the overall liability will be on both persons only, but they will divide the work among themselves in terms of the audit work. So in this way we have seen the different provisions available in relation to the auditing. Seen about the provisions of appointment of an auditor, removal, and what are the different provisions for qualification and disqualification of auditor, rights, duties associated with the company auditor. So I hope you all have understood the concepts. Thank you so much. Thank you.